Hello, everybody. This is Nikki Huntsman, and this is the Come and Giggle podcast. Welcome to episode 2. Today, I have a very special guest joining us, my dad. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Randy.
So I decided to have my dad on because he's one of the more entertaining people that I know in my life, and he has some pretty wild stories that I've grown up on over the years. And I thought that these are things that people might possibly enjoy. Like some of the stories that I grew up with, guys, my dad used to do this thing called a career a year. And some of his careers were pretty outrageous. My dad's managed bars. My dad used to do gambling stuff. I feel like a good start to the podcast is, how about you tell us about your horse racing days?
Okay. Traveled the country for about a year. Went to Canada and Miami and California and Nebraska, Louisiana, playing thoroughbred racehorses. I worked for an old gambler out of Vegas. He put up the money, and I went to the racetrack with $10,000, $20,000 in my pocket each day and placed bets. Hoped that we would win. And our system was called flash betting. It wasn't illegal. It's a little shady maybe, but...
What's flash betting for anybody who doesn't know what that is?
Basically, you bet on the race after the race starts. My partner would watch the horses coming out of the gate, and whichever horse jumped out into the lead, 2 or 3 lengths into the lead, he would signal that number to me, and I'd be at the betting window. And no one really knew that you could bet after the race started, because when the race starts, a bell goes off, and the machines shut down within 3 seconds. But you have a 3-second period, or you used to. They don't have it anymore. But so you could watch the race start, and the horse that ran out in front of all the other horses, you could bet on that horse. The gals at the window knew what our bets were going to be. They had them entered in the machine. All they needed was a number, and they were just waiting there to punch the number that I called. We would call the horse that jumped out into the lead right at the beginning of the race, and sometimes they went wire to wire and they won, and sometimes they broke down and ran out of gas and lost. It certainly wasn't a sure thing, but over the long haul, you won to the system.
Didn't you say something about how you made like the front page of a newspaper?
Well, yeah, we were in New Orleans for, I think it was our third time we had been to New Orleans. We were at Jefferson Downs. It was a quarter horse racetrack. And the quarter horse races were the best for our system because the horse that jumps out into the lead only has to keep the lead for like 40 seconds. You know, I mean, it's a very quick race, so they don't have to keep the lead for very long to win. And we were winning probably 7, 8 races a day out of 10 races a day. So it was kind of a gold mine. We were doing really well. A girl at the racetrack saw my partner talking into his program. He had his program rolled up, and he had a microphone inside the program, and he was talking into the program saying, 6, 6. He was giving me the number of the horse to bet on because at that track, we couldn't see each other. So when I was at the window, he couldn't flip me a hand signal, so we had a radio, the same radios that the FBI used. We got them at an electronics show in Vegas, very expensive. The cops were very impressed by them. They were like, wow, where'd you get these radios? These are awesome. So anyway, the girl at the waitress at the racetrack ratted us out. So they grabbed us and searched us and found the radio on me, and they tried to charge us with 40 different things. But we told them what we were doing, and it ended up that there was nothing they could really do about it because there wasn't a law against flash betting. But they thought we were past posting, which means you're radioing the results of the race to someone at a phone booth off the track, and they're on a phone with someone that's in Vegas, and the person in Vegas places a bet on a race that's already over with, and that's what they thought we were doing.
And that one's super illegal, or?
Oh yeah, that's like a major felony. But you know, we made the front page of the paper. 2 Colorado men arrested at a racetrack with $30,000 cash, and we were having a good day. We worked out a deal. The judge got $15,000, and the district attorney got $10,000, and our attorney got $5,000. So basically, they kept the $30,000 that we got caught with.
Gotta love the legal system.
We had 2 other winning tickets, which we made them sign a receipt for when they took us in because they were worth about $22,000, and we were banned from the racetrack from then on. So we had to send somebody back to the racetrack to cash the 2 winning tickets to get our.
Were you banned from all of them or just that one?
Just that one.
Okay, well that's good.
And so, you know, I went before the judge, and he said, "Well, I'm going to give you 2 years." And I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't the deal. And I was sweating bullets because I didn't want to go to prison for 2 years or jail for 2 years. And then he said, but I'm going to suspend the sentence as long as you agree to leave town. Don't come back, which is what we wanted to do. We wanted to get the heck out of there because we had another racetrack to go to. The judge got his money. The district attorney got his money. And then I realized that, wow, you can bribe judges. Didn't know that was possible, but the gambler that we worked for from Vegas was friends with the district attorney. They were old friends, so that's why he was able to work out a little bit of a deal. They knew a judge, and we got the right judge and the right district attorney, and just lucked out, I guess. But we really, they knew they didn't have anything on us because what we were doing, there was no law against it. I know what they thought we were doing, but after we bailed out of jail and went back to our we had a little kind of a condo thing that we had rented. And at 2 a.m, the police came busting down the door, 8 SWAT guys or whatever it was, and because they thought we had, a bunch of telephones and we were bookies making bets and making deals. And they thought we were, doing some real sly stuff. So they kicked down our door and they came in expected to find a bunch of telephone systems and telephones. And we had a model airplane. We had been building an airplane because we were bored in between the races. We had nothing to do. We were, couldn't go out every night, so we were building a remote-controlled airplane, and we had just about finished it, and they came in and they stomped all over that and stomped it all to pieces just to be pricks. They thoroughly searched the place, but they didn't find our bag of weed. They didn't find, we had 2 or 3 grams of cocaine on a plate in the kitchen cabinet. They didn't find that, and we had a gun, which was just for our own protection because sometimes we came home with $30,000, $40,000 cash.
Yeah.
But with 8 cops searching a little 2-bedroom apartment thing, they didn't find anything. So
That's funny.
I guess we were lucky, but because that stuff was illegal.
Well, some of it still is. Having the cocaine.
Well, maybe.
The cocaine part.
That was back in the days of that movie Blow. They did that movie. He said if you were doing cocaine between 1978 and 1982, that was my cocaine you were doing. That's when it was good. I mean, just a tiny little dab would do you. And it didn't come in a bag of powder. It was rocks. You got chunks.
Yeah. Completely different time period.
Pink rock.
Used to be pink?
Yeah, pink Peruvian. Called it pink Peruvian flake.
I didn't even know that existed.
Get an 8-ball and it was just a hard rock. Shave it with a razor blade. Chop it up into powder so you could snort it. But a match head worth, and you didn't even know you had teeth anymore. Your nose was numb, your gums, your face, your teeth.
The 70s were a different time.
And it lasted a long time. It was before they cut it 60, 70, 80% like they do these days.
Yeah, I'm sure whatever's going around these days is garbage and not worth it.
Well, I'm sure some of it's good somewhere. Someone's getting the good stuff. But back in the 80s, it got to where it got cut more. And you were doing just baby laxative. Manite, I think they called it. That's what they cut it with back in those days. Kept you real regular. But as it got weaker and weaker and weaker, I decided I'm not doing this anymore. It's no good anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you got out of that habit and got sobered up before you had me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, one day I decided I'm not wasting my money on that stuff anymore. It's too much money. It's hard enough to get by in life without squandering your money on overpriced crapola.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, speaking of times that were a little bit more different, you have this relic that one of your buddies sent you. The little ticket from one of your Halloween parties back in 1975.
Yeah, that was...
You should tell us about the Halloween party that you threw, the costume party.
In 1975, I was in the Air Force. I used to work on C-130 gunships, but I got transferred to the recreation center because my father was dying of cancer. And so I got a humanitarian reassignment to Peterson Air Force Base, and they put me at the recreation center. So my job was to clean the rec center and shoot pool and put on bingo night and pool tournaments and dances and such. So anyway, we decided to have a Halloween party out there in 1975. We printed up 40 tickets that we sold for $2 a piece. The building had a capacity of 100 people. So we figured, well, we'll sell 40 tickets. We'll have a small crowd. And so we had a band set up, kegger, all you can drink. And it gave the location, said free foosball, live band, pool, entry by ticket only. Prices, guys, $2, girls, $1. All you can drink.
I can't believe it was all you can drink for $1 for the girls and $2 for the guys. I really, really miss those prices. That sounds great. I wish that I could have been around in that generation.
Well, we figured a keg of beer would go a long way, with 30, 40 people. So anyway, unexpectedly, word travels fast, and about 350 people ended up showing up. So we had to go get another keg of beer and another keg of beer and another keg of beer. And alcoholic beverages were not allowed in that building.
Oh.
But,
all you can drink and a place that does not allow alcohol. Really, Dad?
well, my boss was out of town that weekend. And so we figured we could get away with a keg of beer. What the heck, And so anyway, we ended up going, we kept running back and forth to the liquor store right outside the gate. And we ended up buying 6 kegs of beer that night and probably 15, 20 cases of beer and a few dozen bottles of liquor.
I can only imagine the cleanup from that. That sounds like it would be terrible.
Yeah, with 6 kegs of beer, so much beer got spilled that the floor was just
sticky,
sopping wet with beer. And it was a kind of indoor-outdoor carpet. But we didn't have near enough ashtrays. So hundreds of people were stomping their cigarettes out on the carpet and laying their cigarettes down on the grand piano and laying their cigarettes down on the pool table and the foosball tables and the furniture. And so there were cigarette burns everywhere and beer everywhere. We spent about 8 of my friends helped me clean the place. We cleaned it for 3 days after the party before my boss got back, and he walked in the place and he said, "What in the hell happened here?" And we thought it was looking pretty good, but
not good enough.
Couldn't make the cigarette burns go away and the smell of the beer and the carpet. So it was a great party. Every costume you could think of, the band was good.
Did you get in trouble for that, though?
I was supposed to be promoted to sergeant, and they held up my promotion for about a year. So I lost about $300 a month. It was a big promotion. I lost about $300 a month for a year. So I lost about $3,600 from not getting promoted.
That's a huge loss in the 70s.
That was a lot of money in the 70s. And, but they had to replace the carpet and had to punish me. And then they called me in and let me know that I had volunteered to be on the honor guard. And I said, no, I didn't volunteer for any honor guard. And they're like, yeah, you did. So I was placed on the honor guard. I got to march in parades and wear a little chrome helmet and the boots with the white bootlaces and the white rope on my military police-looking uniform. And I got to march in parades and fire 21-gun salutes at funerals and fold flags over coffins and that sort of thing. Got to do that every weekend for a year. I got a little bit of punishment from having that party, but it was
worth it.
It was worth it. It was a great party. And anyway, it's 49 years later, and somebody sent me this ticket that they had kept the ticket from that party all this time. And the people that are still alive still talk about that party. It was the
I just can't even believe that.
best Halloween party they'd ever been to.
The fact that they kept it and they framed it and sent it to my dad, I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
But yeah, we had any costume you could imagine. It was there. It was represented. I mean, saloon girls. I just can't even remember. Pirates and just every kind of costume you could imagine. And then at midnight, about a dozen military police came storming into the place, and everybody was like, "Oh shit, we're busted." And they said, "No, these are our costumes." And they all grabbed a beer and started partying. They were all friends of mine and people that I knew, and some of them worked at the gate and were letting in all the costume, because a lot of the people that came were civilians, because I was back in my hometown.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that attended were civilians, but also we ended up with 50. The word traveled around the barracks on base real fast, and a lot of Air Force guys came over to the party, enjoyed having a good time, and probably the best party that was ever thrown at the recreation center. But like I said, people still talk about it till this day. The ones that are still alive.
You used to throw some memorable parties. I remember when I was a kid that you would take me out to your friend's ranch back when you had your garage band, and you guys would jam and rock out, and I'd get to dance and listen to music and be by a bonfire with my sleeping bag. It was pretty cool. I miss it. Days like that I really liked. I'd have to say those are some of the highlights of my childhood. I used to love jamming out to your live music.
Yeah, that was fun. I had a friend that had 40 acres out east and a mobile home, but he had a big building next to the mobile home, which, they had a bar set up in there and drum set and PA system and guitar amps, and we
And
brought
Mike also had that cool little wood stove fireplace thing in it. I'm pretty sure I remember
Yeah.
there was a wood stove in there, and then right outside there was a huge bonfire pit. And I remember you guys had the friend that played the saxophone, and then there was Ted and Anita.
Yeah, Greg played a slide trombone. He'd be in there, rocking out with all the guitar players with a slide trombone, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
It was really cool.
Not so much a party, just a jam, a bunch of musicians.
Well, for you, it was just jamming, but for me, like, I was a small kid at the time. For me, that was a party. That was like a rager for me. I was like, what, 5, 6 years old?
We were partying. We were all drinking and
Yeah, but for me, I was like partying. I was like, woo.
smoking some doobs. And
For me, it was live music, hanging out with my dad, and having bonfires. And I remember Amy used to hang out with me, Mike's girlfriend back in the day. Oh, we could talk about how back in the day you used to manage that bar, E. Rigby's. Isn't that the name of it? Rigby's or E. Rigby's?
yeah, I was trying to get to that.
Oh, well, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I got an offer to open a restaurant bar that had been closed for about 4 or 5 years. It was at a shopping mall, and they said, would you like to open this place up? And I said, well, I could give it a try, see what I can do. And so they handed me the keys, and I said, well, do you have any money to get it going with? And they said, well, no. They said, here's the keys. Good luck. So I went over to the place, and it was a mess. It had been closed for years. So I got in there, and I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned for about a week. Got a guy to come out and clean the old beer line taps out, and clean the beer lines out, and I got a keg of beer. I bought a keg of beer with my own money. Bought a couple bottles of liquor so we'd have something behind the bar.
And you got it going.
I tried to get it going. Kind of had happy hour.
It's not like you just tried. You did get it going. It was successful for a bit. And that's also where he met my mom, guys. Yeah, he met my mom when he was the manager of that bar, and she was a patron.
Put on a Christmas party for the Broadmoor employees and the Ampex employees and the school board employees, and did a lot of Christmas parties, did a few weddings. But when I started the place out, I was the only employee. So I was the janitor, I was the bartender, I was the waiter, I was the cook. I did everything. And then finally I got to where I hired a waitress, and eventually I hired a bartender. And then after a few months, I got to where I could, I saved up and I hired a band. We started having bands every Friday and Saturday. We didn't have them every night of the week, but we had a band every Friday and Saturday, and it was fun. I had a great Halloween party at that place.
Didn't you say that place was also built on like an Indian burial ground or a satanic thing, or I can't remember what you said.
There was rumors that the previous owner they were into some kind of devil worshiping or something. There was a pentagram that was painted on the floor, the dance floor in the main dining area room. It was painted on the concrete floor, and the person that found it, the owner, that bought the mall, he had them come in with jackhammers and try and jackhammer off the pentagram, and it soaked all the way down into the concrete. They couldn't figure out how or why it did that, but
That's weird.
they had to take out all the concrete and re-pour the concrete.
They had to seriously like take out the entire concrete.
They didn't do that when I was there. They did that before I got there.
Yeah, but that had to be a thing. That's insane.
And then the owner of it was a Chinese businessman. He owned the mall. He told me he needed me to be there at midnight on a Monday night. Well, we were closed on a Monday night, but he wanted me to be there at midnight to let some holy men in. And he brought some guys from China, and they came into the mall. They said they thought there was some kind of spell on the mall or some kind of bad curse or something. They thought something, but the holy men came in and lit candles and burned incense and said prayers and walked around the place, and I let them in and then let them back out when they were done, and then they headed back to China. The mall had a lot of empty stores. They were having a hard time renting out any stores, and they thought that might help.
If they got rid of whatever dark entities were going on there.
Yeah, they thought that would help. I guess it didn't, because they ended up bulldozing the whole entire mall about a year later.
Did anything ever get rebuilt there, or is that still an empty lot?
They built a big Ace Hardware store and a Safeway store and
Okay, and other things have been successful?
a couple of stores, but the mall part of the thing stayed bulldozed. I don't know if it was still under the same ownership at that point.
Did you have any weird haunted experiences while you were there? or anything memorable?
No, not really.
I had to ask because I thought it was kind of wild that they would get some people to come in and bless the place.
A lot of nights drinking after hours. Place would close up, and a few of us would sit at the bar and drink for a couple more hours after closing time.
I mean, that's normal though when you work at a bar. I remember when I worked at Copperhead Road, we would get offered to hang out after hours. And I remember for my work Christmas party, they offered to have us go back to the boss's house to drink after work. We get out at like 3 a.m., because we have to close. We have to clean the bar. We have to put things away, do all that, By the time you're done, the bar closes at like 2:30, whatever. But by the time you're done doing all your closing duties, it's fucking 3 a.m. I'm not going to work Christmas party after that. Fuck that.
So I decided that if I don't stop working here, I'm going to end up hurting somebody or hurting myself, crashing my car at 4 a.m. when I pass out at the wheel. But I found myself coming down Academy Boulevard going 70 miles an hour, and I'd hit a bump and wake up, and I was behind the wheel of my car. That's kind of a rude awakening. I don't recommend that at all. Your heart kind of jumps out of your chest and hits the windshield. But anyway, it was good times. We had some good parties and good bands, and it was a lot of fun for a while.
Yeah, you've had so many experiences that are just insane. I'd have to say probably one of the ones that's most wild to me is the one that you told me about with Strawberry Alarm Clock. Because didn't you say that when you were playing bands or whatever as a young kid or whatever, they wanted you guys to open for them once?
That goes way, way back to when I was about 13 years old.
Who all was in it, and what was the name of the band that you had back in the day?
I have no idea what.
You don't remember the name of the band?
The name of the band. My brother Monty was the rhythm guitar player, and he was our guitar player, and we had a bass player and a keyboard player and a drummer. Some of the guys in our band were kind of rich kids from a rich neighborhood, so they had really nice equipment. Our drummer had a pink champagne Ludwig drum set, really nice drum set. And our keyboard player had one of those old orange Vox keyboards or Farfisa, whatever it was. We played songs like House of the Rising Sun and Gloria and Midnight Hour and Come On Down to My Boat Baby and Satisfaction by the Stones and Tambourine, Mr. Tambourine Man from the Byrds. Just, it's funny. I can still remember some of our song list. We had a list of about 25 songs we did, but, it was just a thing for fun. But we lived about a couple hundred yards from Hyannis Bay in Hyannis, Massachusetts. All these yachts were parked down there. These rich guys came in with their yachts. They heard our band playing and came up and knocked on the door. And apparently they came back and heard us a couple of more times and just stood outside listening to us. And then they came up and knocked on the door and wanted to talk to us. And they wanted to talk to, when the guy met us, he said, well, can I talk to your parents? And he wanted to talk to our parents. He said, I'd like to, offer these guys a job as an opening act. He said, I need to fill up 30 minutes of time because we got two bands going on tour together, but the first band, Strawberry Alarm Clock, only has one hit song. They don't have much material, so we need to fill in some time. So we'd like you guys to just play your cover tunes. He wanted us to, play our 30-minute set, and then they'd have Strawberry Alarm Clock play for 30 or 40 minutes, and then they could have
the main act,
the Association, which was a pretty big band back in 1960. This was like 66, 67, 67, I think. They had a lot of big hits, Never My Love, Cherish, Windy, Along Comes Mary. They had a lot of big songs. They were a very popular band on the East Coast. But it was just a tour of 7 states, eastern states, New England states. Our parents wouldn't let us do it. They didn't want strangers taking us across state lines and taking us.
Honestly, it's probably for the better because seeing all the things about Nickelodeon and all the things that are going on in the entertainment industry, it's probably good that they didn't let their kids go for that. But who knows? That could have made your career. But you also could have ended up with a lot of childhood trauma, addiction issues, overdosing. Anything could have happened. So
yeah, I didn't get to find out, darn it.
I know. I didn't get to find out with that stuff either, though, because when I was a kid, I wanted to move to California and act and try out for all those Disney Nickelodeon shows. And you told Mom no, because Mom was tempted to move me out there. And you said you didn't want me to. It's okay. It's better that I didn't go and stuff, because like I said, I wanted to try out for Disney and Nickelodeon stuff. And having all that stuff come out now, what they did to Amanda Bynes and Drake Bell and everybody else. I'm like, it's probably for the better I didn't move out there as a kid.
Well, there was a million kids trying to do that, so
There probably always are.
always will be. A million people that want one job, so it's like hitting the lotto.
Well, it's competitive, and then a lot of creeps in that industry. I got lucky. Didn't have to deal with any of the childhood trauma, so at least there's that.
But yeah, back in 1967, they had the Jackson Five, they had the Cowsills, bands that were young teenage type people.
Yeah, and they all ended up with trauma. When you look back at it.
Yeah, I guess.
Michael Jackson, Cowsills, they all were fucked. Weren't the Partridges also abused? I think.
I don't know.
I can't remember. Was it the Partridges,
the
or a
Partridges
different
were
one?
a phony TV band. They were.
I'm trying to think of which band.
They were imitating the Cowsills.
Not the Partridges then. I don't know.
That was a TV show.
There was one of the bands, though, from back in the day. I'm trying to think of which ones. The ones with the siblings, or was that the Cowsills?
Probably the Cowsills.
That dealt with the trauma. Yeah. Let's keep this light, though. Well, I mean, I love California, and I've had good experiences there, but I moved there as an adult. I don't think it's a good place to raise children, and I'm happy I did not grow up there. Looking back at it, as a kid, I wanted to move there more than anything else in the world.
It's got some beautiful places, I'm sure.
Oh, it's gorgeous, and there's so many great job opportunities. No, I love California. It's been good to me, but I've only been there as an adult.
You've been there a lot more than I ever was. I went there in 1969. The summer of love, all the hippies.
Yeah.
And stuff. I went across the Golden Gate Bridge, drove out there for the summer to work. Haight-Ashbury and all that crap was going on, all the hippies and the flower children, if you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. Scott McKenzie song that he wrote about San Francisco, but it was all, I don't know. I was only there about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and then we visited Grandma, too. So we've been there before because we went to Lake Almanor back when she was alive. And I liked that. I enjoyed it. I miss that. Oh, I didn't know where it was. I don't remember. I was a kid. I just remember it was gorgeous. I really liked Lake Almanor.
Yeah, it was a big lake.
It was pretty, and Grandma had such a beautiful house. Her and Carl's dream house was stunning. I remember jamming out with Grandma. She would play the Backstreet Boys and Frank Sinatra. She was playing her music and mine because I had that Millennium CD that Uncle Monty gave me, and I actually still have that somewhere. But he gave me my first Backstreet Boys CD, and then Grandma was showing me Frank Sinatra when I showed her the Backstreet Boys. So I'll always remember that. And I remember that I slept most of the way in the back of our old Oldsmobile, the Royal Brooksy. What type of Oldsmobile is it? It's like the Royal something.
It's a Royal Brougham. It's a 84 Delta 88.
I'd have to say it's one of the most comfortable cars to ride in ever. It's really easy to sleep in. It's so cushiony and comfy. I don't think I could ever drive it. It's like a giant boat. It's terrifying to drive, but it's so comfortable to sleep in. And I remember the CDs that I brought with me because I only had a few CDs at the time. I was a small kid. I was like 8, 9 years old, but I had my Britney Spears. I had my Backstreet Boys, my Spice Girls. And then I also had Shania Twain, the Bangles, and Elvis. I had the Elvis Greatest Hits, and I remember playing those on repeat for the entire drive to Grandma's, just switching those 5 CDs out. Very memorable for me.
Yeah, I slept most of the time I was driving, too. Because it was pretty straight road, so it worked out pretty good.
I remember you and Grandma had to take care of me, too, because I had pink eye from the stupid hotel we stopped at.
Some nasty hot tub at
Best Western, I think it was.
Best Western.
We stopped at Best Western, and I got in the hot tub and got water in my eye.
But yeah, road trips, they can be wonderful and they can be
brutal,
awful. Like we drove out there one time and there was forest fires from Colorado, all through Colorado, then all through Utah, then all through Nevada, and then all through California. And we just choked on smoke all the way there. It was awful.
Yeah, I don't even remember the smoke part. I was a kid, so that part didn't even stick out to me. I remember Grandma's cooking. I remember bouncing around the living room and dancing to music with her. And I remember her giving me presents. And I remember her cooking I don't know, basic things. Certain things just stuck out to me, and most of them positive, thankfully. I don't remember gagging on the smoke, and I don't remember the drive being long or uncomfortable. I slept through it, and I listened to my music. I was comfy. I was good. That's the cool part about being a kid. You don't have to worry about all of the nuances of like driving, stopping for gas, the energy that it takes.
Yeah, I like seeing America. I like seeing the towns and seeing the countryside and the vast parts where it's wide open spaces, and see that still exists, you know?
Yeah, and it's completely different everywhere you go. Always a different vibe and atmosphere. Didn't you used to hang out with the Kennedy kids?
Yeah, my best friend's dad was the athletic director for the Kennedys and some other families. And so he'd take us over there to socialize with the kids because they needed to be around normal people every now and then, or they wanted them to be around normal kids. So we'd go over there and play wiffle ball or go out on the boats with them or run around the yard, play tag, whatever. You know, that's when we were quite young.
Do you remember which ones you used to hang out with?
Just John Kennedy and Caroline a couple of times. Usually it was John. And he was just a little kid. I was maybe 11 years old, 11 or 12. He was about 5 or 6 or 7.
Oh, geez.
So,
God, you're that ancient. I know you're old, but it's just weird. It's weird hearing how much of an age gap you have with the Kennedys.
But yeah, I was just, that was about 1965, 66, right in there. I would have never seen him, but if it wasn't for my friend's dad working for him, as an athletic director, because he'd have the Kennedy's kids and a couple of the neighbors' kids, and he'd take us over there so they'd have enough people to try and play wiffle ball or whatever, soccer or whatever we were going to do.
Yeah.
And to give them a chance to be around regular.
Well, it's good that you got to do that at least.
But the Kennedy compound was quite, it was all these old kind of mansion houses, old 1800s houses. And they had several swimming pools, and they had their own boat dock and their cabin cruisers and their speed boats. And they had, a couple boats for fishing, a couple boats for yachting. They had a regular yacht and a sailing yacht, I think. They had quite a few boats. I didn't go in any of the houses, just we'd walk past them, of course, and play in the yards and see the different swimming pools they had. They had one swimming pool that had wheelchair tracks going all through the swimming pool. So old Joe Kennedy could wheel his wheelchair down into the pool and wheel around and then wheel his way back. They'd take him back out, First time I saw it, I was like, what the heck is that? Oh, that's the wheelchair tracks. I'm like, okay.
I didn't even know those existed.
If you're the Kennedys, you can make stuff exist. They had been there a long time. They called it the Kennedy compound, I think they called it. But a few acres of houses and beachfront property and a little boat dock.
It sounds like it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun living there. A lot of good seafood and
yeah, I've never
summers.
really visited Massachusetts. It's on my list. I want to check it out. You said that you used to catch fresh lobsters or oysters, or what did you used to do, or mussels? What was it? I remember you telling me that one time.
When we went swimming at lakes, they always had mussels all over the bottom of the lakes, and we'd bring them up just for the heck of it. We didn't eat them or anything, but yeah, there was a lot of lobster. A lot of people had lobster traps, and you could pull up a lobster trap, and we'd go out with people, and they'd pull up a lobster trap and get us some lobster, and we'd go boil it up and have a little campfire on a beach and boil up a lobster and melt a cup of butter, and just so good. Fresh New England lobster is wonderful.
Sounds really nice.
But yeah, Hyannisport was a small little town, 2 little main streets of businesses, kind of a touristy trap type of place. I don't know what it looks like nowadays, but it was interesting little town. A lot of old houses that were built in the 1850s and 60s and 70s and 80s. And we lived in a house that was built in 1882, I think. It was a very, very interesting house. Had an old wooden refrigerator. And on the side of the house, there was a door where the iceman could come up and slide the door open and throw a block of ice into your refrigerator.
That's cool.
I guess the iceman came, once a week and brought you a big block of ice for the ice box.
That's so different compared to nowadays.
Of course, we
So
had a regular electric refrigerator in those days in the 60s.
So you had both?
But we didn't use the old ice box.
Oh, you didn't use it?
No, that was just something from times past.
Oh, okay.
That's what they did back in the 1920s.
I wasn't sure. I thought you were saying you still used it.
No.
When you said we had a wooden fridge.
No, they had the iceman would come with big blocks of ice, and he had the big giant ice tongs to pick them up with, and he'd drag them out of his truck up to your house and stick them open the door on the side of your house and stick a cube of ice in your ice box, and that was your refrigerator for a week.
So crazy how that worked.
A very interesting place to live.
Well, I think we're at about the hour mark, which is perfect. It's exactly how I want it. So thank you for coming on my podcast, Dad. And sign your name on the wall. Every episode, the guest gets to sign. Good enough. Love you, Dad.
Love you too.
But I love you so much, Dad. Thank you for coming on. And
Okay.
I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of Come and Giggle. I'm going to make like a banana and split. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you again soon.